tell you, one of the biggest things about life is that you will be betrayed. Betrayal and rejection kind of come together. I think the devil knows that that's where we hurt the most. The peer pressure to be like everybody else. But it takes a man and a woman to stand up and say, I'm not going to be like the rest. I'm different. I don't have to give in to what other people give in. And we are needing people of courage, women of courage, to stand up and say, no, it stops here. Because there's a lot of people. I mean, I have doctors, I have physiotherapists, I have everybody saying, you are a miracle, that you are as well as you are, and as mobile and active as you are at your age, after being what you've been through, is a miracle.
Over 18 years.
It's been such a pleasure having you.
I have watched you. I've watched you walk in faith. I've watched you preach. I've watched...
You've watched me walk on crutches.
Yes.
You've watched me walk on...
From high heels. When I joined, you used to wear high heels.
I used to have my high heels, and now look where I am.
With your
now.
beautiful long skirts.
Yes.
I've watched you. And I've been so inspired, especially with your visionary ability to just to have a vision around Arise, for example.
Welcome to Threads of Grace, a soul-nourishing podcast. This podcast is a movement. It is a sanctuary, a circle of voices, silence, softness, and strength. This sacred space is for the people becoming, the ones rebuilding, and the ones who have not given up on themselves. Created with love and intention just for you.
Welcome to the first episode of our podcast, Threads of Grace. It is titled The Hem, Where Healing Begins. Healing begins at a moment when we dare reach in faith, sometimes in desperation, in surrender for something that's bigger than ourselves. And in that reach, God always meets us with grace, identity, and restoration. For this episode in particular, we explore, one, the symbolism of the hem as a point of faith and healing. Two, we also want to know what it takes to begin the healing journey. And three, how grace, identity, and wholeness are rediscovered. The spiritual call for us to reach again for healing, faith, identity, and purpose, to stretch past the silence, the shame, the fear, and touch the hem of grace. In this first episode, very sacred episode, I am deeply honored by you, Pastor Mariana, joining us this morning.
Thank you.
A co-founder, a matriarch of Word of Faith Christian Center, wife to the late beloved Pastor Jimmy Crompton, a mother, a grandmother, and mother to many in faith.
Thank God for that. God's been kind to me, really has, Becky, and it's good to be with you today. And I believe that you're going to see lots and lots of great things come out of this broadcast and into your future with this.
Thank you, Pastor Mariana. Welcome.
Thanks.
So we're going to delve in, and just to kickstart our discussion, we're going to look at a question just to give us a reflection before we begin. The question reads, describe a moment where you have experienced undeserved kindness or restoration.
Oh my word, that is such a big question. I must admit, it's been, I think that let me just go from lately. I've seen since my husband's death, man, have I seen the kindness of God in my life. He has surprised me with his kindness. And I've had things come up against me like you can't believe. It would have, in the natural, it should have shaken me to my very roots. But it didn't. God turned everything, and he does this, dear Becky. He does it. What Satan means for our harm, God turns for our good. So one instance, let me not think. I had a car right into my house. I mean, you've got to know, you've been to my home, no car rides into, it's like riding into your house. You know, there's no ways you don't ride into this. But it was a runaway car, ran into my house. And this was just a year after Jimmy had died. And no, it was in the first year. And you know that out of that, I had a complete home renovation for 9,000 Rand because they had to replace all the front windows. They had to, I took out my old steel windows and put in aluminium, and it was paid for by a runaway car that should never have happened, and it was the funniest episode ever. It was hysterical. If you had to, if it was on YouTube, I promise you that would
have gone viral. Yes, thank you for sharing with us that moment of grace and kindness.
Yes.
You know,
because it was God's kindness to me. Because just there, an old house became quite a new one.
Brand new. We thank God for that. Let's delve into our main conversation. And this podcast foundationally is anchored with the Bible verse from Matthew chapter 9. And in that, we really focus on the power of the hem of the garment. And we read that story beautifully in the Bible, and we see the lady that reached out and touched the garment and got healed after several years of suffering. So we understand you have mothered men in faith. What does grace mean to you personally?
I think it's the mercy, the kindness. Look at the word kindness is going to come up a lot in the conversation, because I think that grace, it's the kindness, the goodness of God that brings people to repentance in the first place. It's not the wrath of God. And that's where the devil tries to make God into such a wrathful God that wants to get at you. And if you step aside the wrong way, he's going to get you. But touching that, she actually, the Talid, I think you pronounce it that way, it speaks of who God really is. He's all these attributes, and his attributes are. She actually touched that garment, that hem, and said, "God, this is who you are. I'm touching you for my healing." He's the God. I am the God that heals you. I am the God that provides for you. I'm the God that brings you joy and peace and happiness. And she was desperate. And I think it's so often we try and make our own lives work. But it's when we get to the place where we say, God, I can't. It's not going to, I can't make my life work. But I'm going to touch you. And then I know you're going to come through for me.
I know you're an author. I even have your book here with us.
Yeah.
Circles of Grace. Beautiful book. And whoever is watching can also grab a copy for themselves.
It's on Amazon. They can order it on Amazon.
So you understand the subject of grace, because around you there has been, as your title says, it's been circles of grace around you. So what we want to also understand, what has threads of grace, that divine weaving of God's mercy and purpose, how has that looked like specifically in your life?
You know, you look at me today, and I'm a very different woman than I was when I went into ministry. I married my husband at the age of 22. And I'm married into the ministry. You have to understand that pastoring is not for sissies. And the woman I was that time, that little girl, the woman I am today, two very different people. But I think that I have grown as a person, but and the one thing I've always made up my mind is I am not taking baggage with me. The scripture says, putting behind the things that of the past and looking forward to the author and finisher of your faith. And I heard somebody say the other day, what you put behind you fades. What you put in front of you grows. And so, I've really lived quite a life. I am very grateful for the life I've lived. It's had huge challenges, but the blessings have far outweighed the challenges. There's no doubt about that.
Just connecting your story with the story of the hem, of the touching of the hem. What does this story of touching the hem or reaching out for the hem teach us about courage? To begin healing, particularly, even when there's nowhere else for us to reach. Sometimes you feel like you're in a desert, you're all alone, and it's overwhelming. What can we learn about courage? I know you've been courageous in your life.
I tell you, one of the biggest things about life is that you will be betrayed. Betrayal and rejection kind of come together. I think the devil knows that that's where we hurt the most. And where people we trust let us down. Where people that you've built a relationship with. I remember over the years, I have poured myself into so many people, and the 1 minute I'm the best thing since ice cream, and the next thing they don't want anything to do with me. And I wonder what changed. And but if you and that's where I've seen the grace of God to be able to get up, just get up, look up, keep going, and not forget who I am in Christ. Because I think you've also found, if you find your identity in how beautiful you are, in who you are, in what you've achieved, all of those things are pretty empty.
Fades away eventually.
They're empty. But when you know who you are in Christ, it changes the way you look at life. And you go, well, okay, God, my cop-out scripture has always been, whatever you do, do it to the Lord and not unto man. I think God knew that man's going to drop you. So if you've done it for the Lord, well, okay, well, I didn't do it anyway. And so, God's the rewarder of those who diligently just seek Him.
Yeah, I know you have led and you've loved and you've carried many over the decades. And this is in church, out of church. What have you found to be the greatest struggle we silently carry, especially we as women? And what is the greatest miracle that we often don't expect?
I think the greatest miracle is changed lives. We look at some people and they are such messes when you start with them. And then you see women and men open up like a flower, open up and start to blossom, and as they allow the warmth of the love of Christ to shine into their lives. And I've just seeing people that I look at some of the women and men that have been with us. We were looking the other day. I mean, they've been with us for 30, 40 years, since we started. Because you must know, I came from Cape Town. I was 30 when I arrived here. And we came here, and cold turkey, we've built what we have today. And we have some of those people that have been with us the whole way, and they aren't the same people that were. They have grown with us. And I think family is probably the greatest miracle. If we look at families and we look at our own, I look at my own son, and I had only had one physical son, which have had lots more children, but and I look at how the choices he's made in his life has made him into a great man. You know, we can be men of God, and then we can be great men. And he's made him into a great man of God. And he's been, and I've watched my family, I've watched those three boys, grandsons, they're serving God. Heather, so with Richard in the ministry. And I think that seeing families being restored and brought back together and people making choices, hard choices, to come out the other side, faith choices, because it takes faith.
And we're very much proud of not only the seed you've planted, but also the work Pastor Richard is doing.
He is.
And I'm happy to hear the greatest miracle is family, because that's foundational.
Yeah, no, and that's it, family first. I think that's where we can lose it so often, because success in the world seems so big. And but if if we gain the whole world and we lose our soul, which it's that speaks about our we go to hell. But but it also covers that the togetherness of family. And I think that if I can take, I might have won the world for Christ, but I lose my family, I've actually lost everything. Because that's where a lot of people make the mistake, is that in the process of becoming successful, they lose their families. And believe me, when you get to the end of your life and you look back, all the other successes fade. But the family is the one thing. I've got a brother who's now turned 85, and he was exceptionally successful. And in business and in the world, and there he's sitting with his family, at the age of 85, and it's the only thing that's important to him
That matters ultimately.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much for sharing with us. I think we'll just pause for a moment with our discussion. I had requested my friends to send a message so we could reflect on it, on the title today, The Hem, Where Healing Begins. And one of the messages, I received is, if you could reach out to touch the hem of his garment today, what would you be reaching for? If you are to touch the hem.
What do I need today? I think I actually just need, I was saying, I told you earlier, I've come here, just me, imperfect me. I've got blisters on my lips and I've got a skin problem. And I'm thinking, not now. If I had to touch the hem of God, I'd like to see all these blisters go and all my face healed. I'd touch him for healing. But also, I'd like to touch him today we've got 4 other people that need healing. We've got this young man that's 34, he's in hospital. His heart is in a bad way. And so, there's healing, but there's others. For me, I think probably God's been kind to me, Rebecca.
If I reflect on this question, I would say I'll be reaching out for wholeness.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about physical, healing, but emotional burdens, unanswered questions, peace of mind, wholeness such that when I stand, I feel whole, I feel complete. And to
That's
me,
beautiful.
an unwavering faith.
That's beautiful. That's what.
And I thought we should just take a moment to reflect on that question, because many of us on a day-to-day basis are going through whatever struggles, triumphs, whatever it is along the way. But if we are to reach, if he was here and we were in the crowd, if Jesus was here and we were in the crowd, what would we be reaching for?
Yeah.
You know?
I think emotional wholeness is just something that we all look for in different ways. You know, you need an emotional wholeness in one area, and I need it in another. And these young men and women, that's as girls that are sitting here, they need emotional wholeness. There's things that, you see, life comes with all its scars, and I heard somebody say, which really struck me. It says God doesn't take the scars away; He takes them and He works them into a beautiful, beautiful tapestry, and it's almost like a artwork, you know, that comes together. And when you look at the scars, they actually change their whole meaning. There was a woman. What is her name now? But she was in a Nazi in the concentration camp, and she was talking about, I don't know if you've done embroidery, and in the front it looks beautiful, but when you look at the back, it's a bit of a mess. And God, I think that explains our lives. Through that, we end up with, we look at the back of the embroidery, and we see our lives as a mess. But God says, I don't see you like that. I see the full picture, the whole picture. I see the final. I see the end of when you're just looking at the beginning.
If we may move on into the next segment, Esther chapter 4, verse 14. I love the book of Esther
Because it really tells us about
how Esther was called upon to stand up and speak
Absolutely.
for the generation. For if she did not, the whole generation will perish.
Yeah.
But what I like about that Bible verse, it's
she is being called
for
such a
Time
time
is
as
this.
this. I love it so much that I'm making a t-shirt.
written that,
I
you
like
know.
that.
So what does that look like today for us?
I really believe that it's time for us to stand up. I think that the world has so almost made people, I've got to fit in with the world, fit in with the, it was the peer pressure to be like everybody else. But it takes a man and a woman to stand up and say, I'm not going to be like the rest. I'm different. I don't have to give in to what other people give in. And we are needing people of courage, women of courage, to stand up and say, no, it stops here. It's finished. It stops with me. If there's abuse in the family, it stops with you. That your children are not going to experience the things you experienced. And I think that's for us to stand up, and we can't do it on our own, but with God's help, says, I am making a difference. You know, the one thing that my husband was very well known for was that he was quite a bold man. And I know in our city we've stood up a lot, and I believe we're going to see that all come to pass, and that we're going to see our city completely turned around. And but it takes men and women to stand up and say, I want to be passive. Esther was challenged to go to the king. I mean, she could have been killed. And so often we worry about us. Well, what's going to happen to me? I think that when we get at the place where we die to self, and died to the fact that if I look stupid, I look stupid. That's okay. But I'm going to do what God tells me to do.
But sometimes it's things like shame,
Yes.
fear.
Yes.
I always say, or it's out there, that shame must always change direction. There's nothing shameful about courage, speaking
Nothing.
out
Nothing.
for your generation, for your family, for your children, for whatever it is that you are called for such a time as this. It reminds me of the girlfriends' evening we had,
Yes.
where we were dealing with the restoration of the daughters, Sarai daughters.
Yes.
I think that was so powerful, also depicting the importance of restoration and just standing up and taking courage and taking the stage for what you believe in. And in this context of healing, it's family, it's generational curses being broken.
That's right.
It's standing in for your brother, sister, friend, and whoever else, you know, because if we don't stand, who will?
Absolutely. I am my brother's keeper.
Who will? But also when we talk of courage, it's also woven with identity.
Strongly.
Yes, and purpose. What are your reflections on that?
As I said a bit earlier, we have to get to the place where, who am I? I'm born for a purpose. When my husband passed, nearly 5 years ago, a prophet said, Jane Hammond said to me, I took your husband, but I didn't take you. So Mariana Crompton exists in this world because God needs me here now. Rebecca's, each one of us are here, and we're here with purpose. We don't just flit our lives away. We're here to make a difference. And I think that's where people lose it, is because so often they get so caught up with me and my life. Am I happy? But the truth is, I've lived most of my life very uncomfortably. I've been pushed into areas that were never, ever, I could never have thought. Public speaking was certainly my most uncomfortable place. Not to this day, I've now done a lot of public speaking, but I get on that platform and I say, God, I've run, because I ride from down William Moffat from my house, and I say, God, it's you and me again. So you better show up.
You're negotiating your way.
Yeah, no, you better show up. I'll just be the mouthpiece. And I think it's that dependence on God. I'm dependent for the next breath I take. I'm dependent on Him for everything. And the more we learn to lean on Him, the easier life becomes. It's the minute we try and make our lives work. I've seen, I've done. God has been so gracious. I looked at our Project Hope Haiti the other day, and I looked across, and it was just a little lady that decided that we can't leave those kids any longer going out there. I was nothing. I didn't expect what God's done. And I think it takes a courage is seeing a need, standing up and saying, I'm not going to allow this any longer. And taking the first small step. And then you see God take the big steps. And suddenly what seemed impossible becomes exceptionally possible. And then I look at our conference coming up now, and I'm going, it was just a little lady, a little girl. I was young, and I just said, no, well, when you touch the woman of our city, arise 20
What
years
an
later.
apt title, Arise.
Yes, and God, and it was the first that we spoke on that, arise, shine, for your light has come. And even there, I didn't understand all the things about branding and God brought me Heather, my daughter-in-law, and she taught me the basics. I have learned so much, So we take the step. And then God brings the people around us that we need, that it's needed to grow it bigger.
Absolutely. And I have sat in the benches at Word of Faith for over 18 years.
It's been such a pleasure having you there.
I have watched you. I've watched you walk in faith. I've watched you preach. I've watched.
You've watched me walk on crutches.
Yes.
You've watched me walk on
From high heels. When I joined, you used to wear
I used
high
to
heels.
love my high heels, and now look where I am.
With your
now.
beautiful long skirts.
Yes.
Yes, I've watched you. And I've been so inspired, especially with your visionary ability to just to have a vision around Arise, for example.
Yeah.
I've attended most of them, I think, if not one or two, but most of them, and each year being a different title and meaningful and so forth. And it speaks strongly with what we're talking about in terms of Esther. And I think you, for your generation, you have stood up.
Thank you.
You have stood up. We have seen you. Our lives have been touched. I know many will have never come forward, but I need you to know.
Actually,
that we
what's
have
amazed
seen.
me is that lately I've had so many people come and tell me what an impact I've had. And the funny part is that I don't closely know them. And I think that is something about standing up there, is to stand up and do the right thing, even when it hurts. Because there's been times when everything inside of me wanted to cry, but I stood up, I showed up, and I went, and nobody else knew what I was going through. And as I made a choice, God, my emotions came in line with my choices, because God is the one that brings us to the point. And so of healing, of health, of being able to face life, because we all have to get up. We can easily just stay under the blankets, and what hurts me is that so much potential has locked them, women especially with potential, have locked themselves behind doors because they're trying to keep themselves safe from hurt, from rejection, from all these things. And they don't even bother to get out of bed in the morning. And I think that that's one of the things about healing. I know I've gone through quite a walk with my, I've had both hips, both knees, feet,
Physical healing, yes.
I've had physical. But the only reason I am at my age walking and being able to walk normally and do things normally is because in the natural I had to get up. I had to, when it was really hard, I had to keep walking. And I've had to keep exercising. I've had to keep on doing. Now that's in the natural, but that applies in us, in our day-to-day life as women, as people. You're not going to become well again if you get stuck along the way, and just because there's a lot of people. I mean, I have doctors, I have physiotherapists, I've got everybody say, you are a miracle, that you are as well as you are, and as mobile and active as you are at your age, after being what you've been through, is a miracle. But I want to say to you, we cannot ever just sit down and accept the lies that Satan brings at us, the lies that people put at us, the names people call you. They expect the negative, because negative comes out of people's mouths far easier than positive. We don't get cheerleaders for life. You get a lot of people that pull you down. And there has to be, that's where you have to trust God. And you have to say, God, with your help, I'm getting up this morning. With your help, I'm going to walk. You've got no idea the walk. The biggest challenge for me was to walk from my seat to the pulpit, because on the way I thought I was going to fall. And do you know how wonderful it is? I go back now to many things where I've been before, and I remember how I used to walk and how I'm walking today. And I think it's when we've been walking life through life's difficult paths, you look back. Rebecca, I think on something of your own life, you can look back now and you remember how you used to be, how you are now.
And the more I explore this topic of healing, the more I'm more sensitized to the people around me.
Exactly.
And I see a lot of people walking, my friends, acquaintances, strangers, and you can see they are carrying a burden.
Yes.
My question to you would be, what would you tell them for those who are feeling broken, ashamed, who some even feel perhaps God doesn't see them?
I love that scripture, and I can't tell you where it is in the New Testament. It says, "Come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Put your yoke on me and learn about me. Come to know me. Come to know my nature. Come to know that I am a good God, a kind God. Get to know who I am. You know, the more I get to know you, Becky, and the more I know who you are, your character starts to shine through. And I think a problem is that so often we live our lives apart from God. And you might think, they might think that God doesn't love them. He didn't go anywhere. They went on their own walk. And God was there all the time until we acknowledge Him. He's not going to help us. You know, the word said, in all your ways acknowledge me. Just call help, and I will direct your paths. That is the way it is. Living for God isn't a difficult thing, Rebecca.
It's surrender.
It's saying, you know how best to live my life. I'm going to trust you. And He leads us, guides us. We'll hear it says, I know you, my sheep know my voice. And so constantly, He gives us direction. But He does expect us to get up. Never give up. Never give up. Never give up.
Thank you so much, Pastor Mariana, for such a rich and grace-filled conversation. At the end of it, we hear, or what I get from your message is we need to stand up. We need to reach in faith. God sees us even in our little corners, and we must lean in. We must reach out to Him.
Absolutely.
For us to find.
He sees, you know what? He saw the woman at the well. She was a prostitute. She had lots of men. And the guys, the men that she'd slept with actually were standing there accusing her. And he says, okay, if you're the one that's never sinned, you cast the stone. You do it. And they all walked away because they were all guilty. And Jesus takes that woman. She says, I don't condemn you either. Just go and sin no more. And that's the secret. We want to come out of where we are. We have to make up our mind to never go back to where we were.
Fantastic. And to you listening, may you find courage. May you find, whether it's through healing for peace or simply a fresh breath of air or hope, grace is always waiting.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for joining us in our first episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation between myself and Pastor Mariana. May you continue to reach in faith and for your healing. You are not alone, you're deeply seen, and when you reach and touch the hem of the garment, you will attain your restoration. In our next episode, we explore a question that many of us always avoid asking. Am I healing or am I just avoiding? We will explore the difference between true restoration and emotional detours, and what really means to face the things we'd rather run away from.